Many people have suggested raising the trophy requirement for Power League since it currently sits at 4,500 trophies, and many people including myself questioned if it would actually work. I initially set out to see if Elo Hell existed in Brawl Stars, but what I ended up with was far more exciting. Let's see if raising the trophy requirement for Power League would actually work in today's episode of Brawl Debate. The statement we're testing is this: you can't blame your loss on bad randoms, because if you're good enough to beat enemies on the same level, then you have the skill to move up, whether or not your random teammates suck. And in order to do this, we had 6 players in the 30,000 to 40,000 trophy range perform a series of tasks meant to see if it actually was possible to carry a team of bad randoms. I'll spare the boring details, but there's a PDF in the pinned comment below where you can read the entire process for yourself. The experiment was conducted in 2 phases. 1. To see how likely it is to be match-made with bad randoms, and 2. Whether or not carrying a team of bad randoms was actually possible. Let's go over the results of phase 2 to see if carrying bad randoms is possible in each of the 6 competitive game modes. The conditions for being a bad random are on the screen right now. This is how we defined bad random behavior. Our first game mode is Gem Grab, played by Ob Smasher. Carrying games in Gem Grab was relatively easier as long as 2 players weren't throwing the game. Carrying starts getting problematic when both players aren't playing to the objective or constantly dying. When a single player goes AFK, they tend to become a supercharger for the enemy, and this is true for all the game modes. But overall, carrying games in Gem Grab is easy with a 46.3% overall win rate with bad randoms. The next game was Brawl Ball, played by I Win or You Lose. Brawl Ball has a better opportunity for carrying teams, and even with both randoms throwing, it isn't impossible to carry a game. The issue rises when players start going AFK. Since Brawl Ball is very goal oriented, lane control is important, and when one player goes AFK, it's easier to be overwhelmed and or flanked by the enemy. Brawl Ball has an overall win rate of 35.5% with bad randoms. The third game was Siege, played by Hydro. Siege actually has a more distributed opportunity for carrying even when one random is AFK. In fact, Siege has the highest win rate with one random throwing at 50%, but overall it falls apart with an overall win rate of 23%. Our fourth game was Hot Zone, played by Atomic Blaze. Now, Hot Zone is actually pretty complex to break down. What's interesting here is that the more zones you have, the harder it is to carry. The mode is very easy to carry with a brawler like Sandy, who can keep control of a massive area on the map. Overall though, with bad randoms, Hot Zone has a win rate of 37.5%. The fifth mode was Heist, played by the Crusher and T2. Heist was perhaps the most volatile game mode, and it was a mode where the lanes mattered a lot. In Heist, the more defined the lanes are, the harder it is to carry. So it's easier to carry in Safe Zone and GG Mortuary than it is to carry in Hot Potato or Bridge Too Far, because a lost lane can easily allow an enemy to start sniping the safe, which in turn puts a lot of pressure on your team. The overall win rate for Heist with bad randoms was the lowest among all the games at a mere 16%. The final mode was Bounty, played by T2. Bounty actually has a more evenly distributed win rate. It's possible to clutch a victory even when both randoms are throwing, which actually surprised me. Your chances of being able to carry your team are actually better if your randoms are tanky brawlers. Overall win rate sits at 21%. Well, alright, this sounds terrible, you're probably thinking, and surely this must mean that Elo Hell exists, right? Well, kind of. And this is the point in the experiment where I began to make a bit of a breakthrough. Because in phase 1 of the experiment, I had the pros play 20 games in their respective modes. And out of the total 120 games played, only 36.6% of them had bad randoms in them. Meaning 63.4% of the time, in the 500 to 700 trophy range, your randoms will either be mediocre randoms or good randoms. However, in Power League, at lower ranks, 60% of the games played had bad randoms in them. So, does Elo Hell exist? Until Gold, yes. Beyond Gold, no. That's all on you. And this is where we come into today's topic of how to fix Power League. You see, in the trophy range between 500 to 700, we only get a 36.6% chance of bad randoms, right? That means 63.4% of the players in the 500 to 700 trophy range are actually pretty good or average. Either way, they're not bad. Alright, so remember how Power Play restricted players to just those with star powers? Well, the trick is to port that same concept into Power League, except with trophies. We limit Power League to brawlers with 600 trophies or more. It's an easy to achieve goal. 600 trophies is a good average amount of experience. Because it's localized to the brawler, it means the player will have a good level of experience playing said brawler. It'll also make the competitive mode a lot more competitive. We can also have the game check to make sure that the player is a 3v3 main, having a 4:1 ratio of 3v3 to showdown. Kudos to Ob Smasher for coming up with this idea, so that they know what they're doing and aren't farming trophies in Showdown Plus. It isn't unfair for free-to-play players either, since they don't need to pay anything to get to 600 trophies, and generally players tend to have at least a gadget or star power unlocked by 600 trophies. If you guys like this idea, then comment down below and share the video so that Supercell will see it.